Hi there, I'm Steve Ricks, the founder and the CEO of Imagine That. And I want to take a minute and welcome all of you to our little gift for you today. And before I talk more about that, I just want to give a special thanks to our team who's worked hard to put this together over at Cadmus Strategies, along with the wonderful companies who are actually distributing this gift to literally what will be thousands of people. I'm sure you'll enjoy it, and I want to talk to you a little bit now about a subject that always seems to come up this time of year: New Year's resolutions. You know, you've heard it all. This is the year I'm going to make it happen. And then you've also heard well, maybe I'll have to wait till next year. That's why I want to talk to you about this year being the last New Year's resolution you ever make. And probably for the most of us, it's going to be the first we ever keep. With that said, I want to tell you what this resolution is. And in just a moment, I'll give you the reveal of this wonderful resolution. I am 1,000% certain that the whole world could keep this resolution, and I think you will be too when you hear it. But before I do that, I just want to emphasize, today's not about an infomercial. It's not about selling you anything. It's just about honing in on the fact that all of us as human beings generally desire our lives to be more, to be better, to be different. And how we go about that with resolutions, it's really all wrong. And we're going to get a chance to meet an amazing guy doing it right a little later. You're going to get some super practical points, and by the time we're done, you'll have some new software to load up in your brain that I think will make all the difference, because this gift comes with not just a lifetime warranty, it's like an infinity warranty. This gift was here before you were even born, and it will be here long after. Trust me when I say this, your life will change forever as a result of just playing with one simple concept that for most of us, we left behind when we were children. Now, are you ready for that resolution? It's real simple. I'll be the first, I'll take the lead, okay? I'm not gonna put my hand up and swear or any of that stuff, but you can trust me on this. So I, Steve Ricks, solemnly do swear that my New Year's resolution here for 2020 is quite simple. No matter how much work it takes, no matter how hard it is, I'll do whatever it takes to never make another New Year's resolution again. That's simple. Now, I know some of you probably think I'm pie in the sky, there's some catch, but the reality is we're throwing New Year's resolutions out, and I'm about to tell you why. Now, if you're wondering why I'm telling you to just get rid of New Year's resolutions, it's pretty simple. I'm gonna give you 3 simple points. Trust me, you don't even need to remember them, because you wouldn't anyway, which is why we wanna get rid of them. Number 1, they don't work. Illustration, case in point, think of the conversations we're having about right now. Are people high-fiving each other as we count down the new year saying, yes, I lost 40 pounds, or I have a great relationship? Hell no, we're not. But you know what the conversation is for the 3 weeks that follow? It's pretty simple. Well, I gave it a good old college try, and my favorite, there's always next year. Well, we want to throw that away because it just doesn't work. And don't take it from me. Forbes magazine, Psychology Today, and the University of Scranton all did surveys. University of Scranton says less than 10% make it past January. And the others say if you're lucky to get 5% who keep them, that's a big number. So we know not only do they not work, we generally do them for the wrong reasons. I mean, like because our wife or our son or our daughter nags us. That's not a good reason. Or because we think it'll make us feel better. And if you want the full list, I got a long list on our website. You can check it out there. Just make a note of it and you'll see it later. The other thing, and the most important thing, is your brain is not wired to have sudden, fast change. Because when we're little kids, we start with this idea of we just want to learn and explore. First 7 years, it's called the theta wave state. Then from 7 to 14, it's all about experimenting. That's why as your teenagers are thinking they can run the world, and I think Tom Sawyer said when your kid's 14, put them in a box with a hole in it, and at 18, put a plug in the hole. Well, I'm just kidding about that, but there's a reason for that. Because they think they've got it all together. And then from 14 to about 21, we embed those values. Most people say 95% of the values we're after, we've already got by the time we hit 20. So for most of my audience today, I suspect we all have the same challenge. And that challenge is this, that we have automatically created behavioral patterns based on things called neural pathways. And if you do it even a lot, they put a little thing called myelin around it, and it makes it super hard to break, which is why a guy named Tony Robbins said, if you want big results, you gotta take massive action. But your brain doesn't work that way. In a few minutes, I'm gonna show you how it does. But before that, I wanna take you to the home of one of my dearest friends here in Scottsdale. He was so kind in his busy schedule to give us some time to look into the mind of a guy who's actually doing it right. And tell you what, he threw New Year's resolutions away too. Let's go check out this guy. $100 million in worth, over 45 businesses he's involved in. Imagine that. Hey there, Steve Ricks here with Imagine That. We are in beautiful, sunny Scottsdale, Arizona. It's actually warm today. It's been kind of chilly the last few days, and now living in Hawaii, my blood has definitely thinned. However, I am pleased to have with me today one of my longest standing friends, Mr. Jim Prendergast. Jim and I met, I think, back in like 1999, 2000, something like that.
I believe that.
Yeah, I think I walked into your mortgage office and said, hey, let's work together. And he said no. And that's kind of how it started. So Jim's a really great guy for a number of reasons. And you're going to see that, experience that firsthand. He's had enormous success, but his success was really in large part born out of the ashes of the failures and the difficulties. And one of the things I really love when we have a chance to interview people is to get a little bit of their insight into their path to where they are now in their lives. So Jim, we don't have 20 years worth of time, but give us some of the high points of your journey to this beautiful home, which happens to be yours.
Well, to your point, Steve, I think most of the high points were really nothing more than a culmination of about a dozen low points at each time. So the story of this place and my life now really is about the failures and failing forward, as they say, getting back up, persevering, really just always believing that you're moving in the right direction and figuring it out as you go. I think so many of us have great plans, whether it's to start a company. We have clear visions on how we want our life to go, and we get sidetracked. We get beat down. We make mistakes. We feel failure. Doesn't feel good. People around us see us as failures at times, and sometimes we take that on. And to avoid that pain, we move in a different direction. We move away from our destiny. And I think there's one thing I think the high point for me in the whole journey has just been my steadfast belief that everything that's happened to me continues to happen for a reason, and that if I can simply learn from those experiences and apply them the next time, that I'll get closer to my path. And although I'm far from where I want to be, I am happy to say that I'm much closer now than before.
Well, we're all about imagination, and I know we've talked. We actually have had some business ventures together, and you hit some walls sometimes, and you just think there's nowhere to go. How has imagination played a role in your life as it relates to the workings of your business?
When I heard you start Imagine That, the first thought I had was that's not for me, because I don't have an imagination and I'm not creative. But the more I thought about it, as you challenged me to think through my past, it's really my imagination that's the only reason we're sitting here today. And the way it's played with me is during some of those tough times we both experienced through a failure, a mutual failure we had. Right. In business, I was forced to open up my mind to what could be the future. The industry we knew and the financial wherewithal we had built to that point was really no longer. The way we achieved those in the past was no longer an option. And so when I look back, I start seeing how I was able to use imagination and creativity to figure out where my next path should be. And so, moving from the financial sector into healthcare, if you'd have told me that 20 years ago, I would have laughed. And so now when people approach me and they talk about my past, they really cannot believe that I'm really a financial guy that ended up in healthcare. I'm really more of a business development guy that ended up in software. And at the end of the day, it's imagination and vision, which I would say are very similar and closely related, that had.
Well, I love that you said that you kind of expanded consciousness, right? You allow new things to come into the mix. Something I have always loved about you and admired, and it's frankly kept me going to fulfill my vision in large part, is your sense of being resolute, very certain of where you're going. And here at this time of year, New Year's resolutions, just a quick question for you. Do you make New Year's resolutions?
You know, I don't make New Year's resolutions. But I'm a huge believer in affirmations, which I believe are nothing more than daily resolutions, ways of being. I do have a process where me and my family members choose a word that means something to us for the coming year, and a word we want to improve on. This year, my word's discipline for 2020.
What was it here in 2019?
Family.
Nice.
So, this year I dropped a lot of board obligations, cut down on some investing and some opportunities that normally I would take and not be around as much. And this year it was really important for me to get back to what really matters and the priority and not be pulled in so many directions.
That's fantastic. And as you look to the coming year, how are the kids feeling about that word discipline?
Well, my son has picked that up as well. He's an athlete. He's a very, very driven kid. So he gets up every day at 7 a.m. to work out on his own without any prompting. He trains multiple times a week.
How old is he?
11.
Wow.
He's 11. So he knows discipline is what it takes. He's not as disciplined as his schoolwork, so that word really resonated with him in all phases of his life.
So one last thought before we wrap up today. If you're thinking about talking to the audience and telling them to take a different approach around this concept of resolutions, and that's very much our approach, is that it's kind of something of the past, it's not very effective. But what would you encourage the audience to do as they think about the fundamental premise of what a resolution is all about, something more, better, different, they want to change? What would you tell them?
Well, first thing I think of when I think of resolution is it's a way that we want to be. And so often we choose resolutions that they're really nothing more than a goal. And what we know about goals is that they must be practiced daily. They must become a habit, and they really are just part of a life. And so for me, it's really about how we start our day is how we end our day. And so starting your day, whether it's a resolution or an affirmation of how do I want to be and how am I going to be in this day to be that person, that's something I do every single morning when I get up.
I love that. I love that. One of the things I've encouraged people to do is just pick 3 things you want to make happen today. At the end of the day, what worked, what didn't, you get back at it again. Well, thanks so much for being with us today, and really appreciate your time. We'll see you all later. A special thanks to my good buddy, Jim Prendergast. I really hope you enjoyed that piece. Man, there's so many nuggets you can glean from that. The thing I want you to focus on most is, remember when he said he was kind of a little iffy on that whole imagination thing? And then he actually looked and said, no, my life is full of imagination. Well, one of the key things to really take what you just heard, absorb it, and over the next 21 to 30 days of your life, get some new software in there so you can create change instantly, is getting out of that time zone thing where we're all taught that by this age I should have this, and by this age if I haven't done that, I'm a bad guy or a bad gal. No, when we live in what I call the IZ, it's the imagination zone, time stands still. Fact is, it doesn't even exist. You want proof of that? Go look at those little 3, 4, 5-year-olds who would play themselves to sleep if you let them, where they have no idea of time until we give them the construct. You see, living in the IZ is the magic that gave Jim exactly what he's created for himself. And I want to give you 3 simple points. They're real easy. Some of it may feel a little unorthodox, but I promise you this. You put these principles to practice, you will watch your life change dramatically. They're simple. Number one, be playful. You say, well, what do you mean be playful? Well, you know, as adults, we just kind of grow up a little fast. There used to be an old television commercial about stay within the lines, and then this SUV goes across the screen, and it's like, no, get outside of structure. If there's too much construct in your life, there's no creativity. And where there's no creativity, imagination has no room to help you expand. And with imagination through playfulness, you'll find that the things that used to be a drudgery are now actually exciting. So when I say play, I don't just mean, like go out and play softball with the guys in the softball league. I'm talking about doing some things that are really outside the lines of conventional. Play like kids play, really. Slinkies, Play-Doh, silly putty, silly string, that's really good. I irritate a lot of people when I use it, but it's fun. And my point is, you're gonna feel a different energy around that that's timeless and endless, and there you're entering the imagination zone. If you want a little bit more about that, again, go back to my website. We'll introduce you to a whole bunch of play states. Second point, and so important, attack life. Most people just sit on the sidelines. If you want the number one reason why all of us don't have what we desire, whether it's more, better, or different, it's because of a little thing in the back of your brain called the amygdala. Now, I'm thankful I have it because in many respects it serves a lot of great purposes. But one place where it kind of screws with us is whatever we've had is all it wants us to have in the future. So anytime it sees something different, even this message right now, you're intending to hesitate because it's foreign. I want you to run from the familiar to the foreign, because in that is where the fun is, and that's how you attack life. And the third point, real simple, we said be playful, attack life, and get loud. I mean, like, you ought to be excited about your life. People ought to be saying, what got into that Steve guy? Well, what got into me is my imagination, because I lost it for years. I had a friend say the other day, have you been always this crazy? I mean, like, you're 52 years old and you act like you're 12. And I'm not talking about my maturity level, although some people would argue that too. What I am saying is that by having a playful attitude, you can have relaxation through intensity. You can have a much greater clarity for what you're looking for. So here it is one more time. Just be playful. Once you're playful, attack life. Go after it. Where you naturally hesitate, jump in, sink or swim. Trust me, it'll work. And then finally, get loud. Let people know what you're doing. Create space for the big you that's about to arrive on the scene. Well, if you're not excited now, I don't know what will get you excited. I just want to take a quick minute and give you a broad brush stroke of what we've talked about today. First of all, your last resolution. I better never see you make another one. We're done with them. Throw them in file 13, okay? And the reason why they don't work, we usually do them the wrong reasons, and your brain's not wired for it. And if we didn't have a better illustration than Jim Prendergast today, giving us insights of a multi-millionaire whose passion isn't the money, his passion is relationship and growth and the idea of expanding and growing. Here's a guy who could just, frankly, sit on his butt and do nothing, and he's constantly stretching and making room to get into my favorite place, the IZ, the imagination zone. And the 3 points we gave you there, just be playful. Let your hair down. Well, not in my case, but then after you've let your hair down, be sure to attack life with some vim and vigor. And lastly, get loud. And why is all this so important today? Why are you hearing this message? It's real simple. Someone really had a passion for your well-being. They understood already that resolutions don't work. Fact is you heard my open, you may have heard someone else's too, that said, we're done with that stuff. Your employer, a coworker, somebody who knows you, I want you to think hard, because as soon as we're done, you're gonna see a little invitation from them. Yes, it's a call to action. I promised you it wasn't a sale, and it's not. It's a gift. Be sure to click on their button. And if you're really daring, I dare you to come into the IZ with us and click on Imagine That as well. We'll see you in the IZ in 2020.